and welcome to the next in the series of brand designs with myself, James Davey, and we have Nathan Lomax here as well. Good morning, Nathan.
Morning, James. How you doing?
Not too bad at all. And we also have Joyce and Raissa here from Double Dutch Drinks. So good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning. Very well. How are you?
Fantastic. Not too bad at all. I will not lie, and this is take two because I definitely screwed up take one. So there's always a learning there on this call straight from day one. So the first thing we always ask our founders, and this is a series of podcasts and videos that we're working with owner founders of businesses to help other owner founders understand and kind of learn a little bit in terms of some of the journey people have been on, so they can learn and kind of delve into it themselves and kind of get a better prospect. So the first thing we always ask is, tell us a little bit around about your brand and how it came about.
So we are the founders of Double Dutch. We do a range of 12 all-natural premium tonic waters and mixers. So they're healthy adult soft drinks that can be either drink on their own or better with a gin or vodka or tequila in the sun. So we started Double Dutch about 6 years ago. We're Dutch twins, hence the name. And we basically always grew up knowing all the local distilleries in the Netherlands. We built up a big passion for quality drinks. Our parents used to organize lots of tastings when we were growing up. And we kind of grew up a little bit drunk. And then when we started hosting our own parties and we became a little bit older, we just noticed that there are so many amazing vodkas and gins and tequilas on the market, but choice of mixers was kind of lacking behind. So we started making our own sodas in our kitchen, where we experimented with lots of different flavors. And it was kind of just a hobby where we would make like big jars of, for example, strawberry and mint or pear and thyme or whatever. We brought that to other people's house parties. And when we hosted our parties, we were serving kind of our own sodas. Never really thought about doing anything serious with it. But then graduated both in a similar, I did a bachelor and master in economics, and Joyce did a bachelor and master in finance. So we both graduated and then started working in the finance world. And we very soon realized that that wasn't really for us. So we quit our jobs together and we decided to move to London and do an extra MBA here in tech entrepreneurship together. And when we arrived in London, we just saw that gin and tonic was massively booming here, even more than back home in Belgium and Netherlands. And we just asked our university, can't we devote our year about the whole mixer market and the fact that spirits are so becoming so much more experimental, but choice of tonic waters isn't really kind of in the same growth level and definitely not in the same innovation journey. They said, yeah, that's fine. So we did a year of market research with bartenders, consumers, what kind of new mixer type and tonic waters they were looking for, and eventually graduated with the concept of Double Dutch. So tonic waters that were more innovative, that were more flavorful, that weren't just about gin, but about making cocktails really easy and more about flavor exploration. So we launched in mid-2015 with our cucumber watermelon and pomegranate and basil. And then from there on, we added lots of more products to the range where we have 12 flavors at the moment.
Ladies, what a story. It's absolutely incredible. I'm keen to, before we go into anything business related, how is it working with your sister? Like that just there must be some incredible challenges there. Let's start with one of you and then go to the other. But yeah, how have you found working with your sister?
I think it's actually very fun. And I think for us, we don't have any other siblings. So we've always been super, super close. So I think for us, it's actually, I can't think of a better partner to have a business with. I think one, it's so much more time efficient because you never need to do like a little bit of tiptoeing if you have an argument or a discussion or like another opinion. And you can trust each other 100%, which is so important. So I think for us, it's great to have let's see what Raissa says.
I was going to say, Joyce, you've set the scene now. She better be nice.
No, I agree. I think it's very easy. And I do think it is very efficient indeed. So yeah, I think it's very helpful. And the fact that we are twins also helps. We can do each other's meetings. And we're kind of always on the same, we have the same vision, short term, long term. We know each other inside out. So if we're, for example, in a pitch together, we can kind of easily pick up where I know that, for example, Joyce is kind of struggling with the answer, or I am. We kind of just look at each other and
I think that really helps, that we just know each other inside out.
So,
Love it.
In terms of, have you ever turned up to a meeting or an event and pretended to be the other twin, though?
So many times.
Excellent.
That's a
You've got
blind.
to use it, haven't you? Have you found a way that as the business has developed, you've found your own kind of niche within the skill set of running the business? Or is it very much still a blended affair? Oh, I'll do that today, or I'll do that this week, or whatever. Have you found distinct little areas you're very comfortable running?
Yeah, it's very, very separate. We have very separate walls, and we don't really overlap a lot. So I do everything with Joyce does everything with finance and operations, and I do everything with sales and marketing.
Fab.
Nice.
And in terms of the product area, is that very much where you then both come and collaborate and go, actually, what do we want to do from a new taste, or we want to kind of add a new mixer into the market, or we want to diversify into a different category? Is that very much the two of you coming together, or is there someone else that helps you with that?
No, I mean, I think we have a great team around us, and I mean, the business can't go without them, so they have great inputs in strategy. But I think in terms of the flavor development and MPT, that's definitely Raissa and I, whose main responsibility that is, and then we test it with the market, and yeah.
So there's an overlap there.
Yeah, is that going to be the hardest thing that you ever have to really think about possibly devolving yourself from?
I don't see why we would dissolve ourselves from it. I think that's the very fun part of running the business and doing lots of tastings and flavor exploration and looking at what flavors work well and kind of looking at trends and that kind. I think that's definitely the fun thing about it. So I don't see why we would not be involved with that process in the future.
So, ladies, the business hasn't been going all that long in the grand scheme of things, and we've had a global pandemic to deal with in the midst of all of this. But actually, it seems to have been an incredible success. What do you put that down to? What's been the catalyst for your really quick growth?
I think we've been super agile and we've always had a mindset of trial and error, and I think we are quite quick to accept when something goes wrong or when something isn't working, to kind of just change. For example, with when COVID happened, large majority of our business came from the hospitality industry, and that obviously turned to zero overnight. Not just in the UK, but also we export to about 35 other countries. So in most other countries, hospitality also went to zero. So initially we thought it's going to be the biggest nightmare ever. But in the end, we managed not to, as an overall business, not to lose any revenues in 2020. I think because, for example, 5 days after the lockdown in the UK, we built our own e-commerce website and pushed a lot on that. We focused a lot more on social media and social commerce. We focused a lot more on retail and kind of the general bigger third-party e-commerce sites. And we just started approaching all the kind of national retailers, not just in the UK, but we managed to get some really good new listings with retailers in Eastern Europe or in Asia. And we kind of just switched our focus and resources completely to the retail side and kind of stepped away for hospitality for a moment. And I think coming out of this crisis now, hopefully, and I'm convinced that we have a new channel next to the hospitality industry. Hospitality finally is back to slowly opening. So coming out of this, we now have a stronger and wider distribution in retail alongside our hospitality business.
Have you found a big difference in terms of how you've had to deal with the two different channels in terms of has the conversation been, it's obviously been very different in terms of selling into a wholesale versus a hospitality, but did you have to learn some new skills to kind of consistently knock down those doors, find those new contacts? What was that process like for you guys?
I think overall, in general, it's probably a very similar process in the fact that you need to pitch a product. But obviously, I think with retailers, it's a longer process. With the trade, you might be able to get a new win in a couple of weeks' time. With retailers, they have their fixed range reviews twice a year. So I think the process takes longer, and that's sometimes a bit more frustrating. But on the other hand, because there's only two, or in general, often only 2 range reviews per year, it did push us to not approach 10 retailers, but approach 100 retailers in Europe and outside of Europe. And at some point you have a range review that's closer than in the next 6 months. I think obviously margins are different with retailers and the route to market is different. But I think overall it's still about pitching your products, tendering, and offering a very good marketing and commercial support.
And it's trying to make sure you catch that buyer at the right time, isn't it? It's we've talked with other buyers, they chop and change so much between different businesses and different categories that sometimes it's literally the luck of the draw in terms of, as you keep knocking down those doors, which buyer you catch on which day.
Definitely. And I think it's about persistence as well, and just kind of keep on knocking on those doors and let them not forget about you, and trying to keep kind of getting in touch with relevant new news, even though it's difficult. But I do think it's persistence and passion for your own product.
It's often said that we learn more from our failings than our successes. And so far, we've only talked about the good things and the successes that have happened. I don't want to press too hard, but actually, I'm sure you've each had a few hiccups in the road. What kind of things have you experienced, and what have you learned from those episodes?
I totally agree. I think you do learn a lot more from the failures than from successes. And I think not the good thing, but I think nothing really ever goes exactly how you expect it. I think that's also the nice thing about being a small business. You can iterate quick and kind of be agile to adapt to new circumstances. I think the biggest challenges that we've had in the beginning, I think has definitely been kind of finding the right partners to grow our business with. We are growing quite a lot every year. And I think it's difficult. It's on the one hand side, you want to build your brand with long-term suppliers, but on the other hand, we were also outgrowing our suppliers kind of every 18 months. So I think that's definitely been a challenge and a difficulty. I hope now we're kind of a little bit more better in forecasting, and we know our seasonality better now. So I do think we now have a few of our key suppliers that we can build our brand in the long term with. But I think in the beginning that was really difficult. I think another challenge in the beginning especially, and I think the biggest mistake we made is that in the beginning, we definitely underhired our team. We were hiring for that moment in time, but we should have thought about what do we need in the next 12, 18 months. For example, in the finance department, we had quite a lot of staff turnaround because in the beginning, we maybe didn't need someone that's as experienced, but then a few months later, we were kind of having some, for example, stock issues, and we needed more experience in that field, which we didn't have at that moment in time. So if I could do it all over again, I think we would hire more senior people in the beginning, and maybe if we couldn't have afforded them in the beginning, start at 3 days a week, for example, and then kind of slowly bring them to a full-time role, rather than not hiring for the future.
Yeah, I think it's something we see a lot across different brands in terms of where they almost have to hire at a junior level because they feel as though they need someone there full time. They need someone, but actually this part-time directorship or part-time head of or a more senior role, there are plenty of people out there that would be, very happy to kind of fulfill that kind of capacity on there.
Definitely. I think, for example, we have a few young mothers in our team that they were quite senior that we probably otherwise couldn't have afforded, but they're looking for flexibility. They're not looking for full-time roles, but also from part-time kind of working from home. And I think that works really well and being flexible from both sides.
And I think, do you feel as though that recruiting into a more junior role initially, do you feel as though that actually hampered your growth initially? Do you feel as though you probably could have gone faster, harder, faster, if I can put it that way?
I think I don't know if it really affected our growth, but I think it did affect the efficiencies on how we were growing. And I think in terms of cash is king, I think that probably in that way it has restricted us at the beginning, because I think just by default, things just went less efficient than they could have been. But then on the other hand, it's all a trial and error, and I still think it's a trial and error, and you really learn from the mistakes. So by having seen those mistakes, we maybe are now more efficient. So I think all in all, you need to learn from it and move on. And yeah.
Ladies, I'm keen to explore a little bit more about the personal side of business growth as opposed to the business itself. How have you both found it as entrepreneurs? Obviously, an incredibly difficult 18 months. And at times you might have just thought, well, is there even going to be a business with all this hospitality closing? How have you managed to keep yourselves going, keep yourselves motivated, and keep yourselves pushing forwards during this really difficult few months?
I think we're both very positive people and very glass half full. So I've never really doubted like seriously. And I think that it helps that we are with the two of us. And I think the good times are double the fun, but the bad times you can kind of lift each other up, and you can't really be down with the two of you. There's always one that's like more are positive.
I also think half of our team, our sales team for the hospitality, was on furlough, and so we were double as busy as normal, maybe. So I don't know. I think it's more about just moving forward, finding new things, and we quickly saw successes in e-commerce and retail. That kind of was quite exciting to see that grow, and I think everybody knew that hospitality is never going to go away. It might close for a year, but it's coming back. It will be stronger. And I think now it's like roaring 20s. People go complete mayhem. And like we live in Soho and people are drinking from 10 a.m. in the morning. So I think they're all catching up. And so I don't know. Yeah.
And I also think it gave us probably a lot of, there's some positivity about it. I think moving forward, I think everyone kind of learned that video call is also working well. I think obviously face-to-face and building proper relationships in a real-time environment is super important. But I think we used to travel so often, both across the UK, but also internationally. And I think now the world's kind of changed, and it would be a lot more acceptable to do some things over Zoom and not spend 2 days traveling to the other side of Europe, for example. So I think that's a positive that's coming out of it. And I think, for example, lots of businesses had the time to kind of think about so that they wanted to change. So, for example, sustainability has always been really important for us, and we've tried to kind of make our supply chain more efficient. And we reduced our plastic over the past few years and that kind of stuff, but nothing really incremental. And I think time in COVID really gave us a time to investigate in what we can do more. So now we've targeted to become 100% carbon neutral by beginning of next year. And I think those are things that probably, if there wasn't any COVID, we probably wouldn't have had the time to really properly investigate these kind of things. So it's not all bad.
Now, how do you find that time to decompress? Because actually, as you said, COVID has almost allowed you to give you a little bit of what we call slow time, that stuff where you can actually then kind of refocus back on direction. How do you kind of do that on a day-to-day basis without COVID?
We drink a lot of gin tonic.
Excellent.
That is the solution to everything.
No, because some owner-founders find it quite a struggle to find that time, and probably need to give you a shout around how to mix the best gin and tonic. Clearly, I love that.
Exactly.
If anyone struggles to work out what to mix with which gin, the flavour wheel on your website is just a fantastic example of actually how do I choose something for a London Dry or a floral gin, for example. You pretty much got an answer for everything. How far do you think you can take this product gamut? How far do you think you can stretch into the UK market with a different kind of proposition?
Well, I think the drinks industry and like beverages are continuously evolving. And I think there's lots of opportunities for us on the one hand side. I think it's always a balance in not having 70 different products within your range, but working, for example, what we do often is working on like limited editions where we work on seasonal fruits for summer or Christmas, for example. There's definitely opportunities in collaborations with other spirit brands, for example, or doing limited editions in terms of design. So I think those kind of one-off new product developments are very exciting. And then in terms of the full range, I think it's important that you don't end up with a huge portfolio, but have a portfolio that really solves every need within our existing customers. So I think that's exciting. I think we will stay focused on the mixer drinking category. We are not planning to go into spirits or whatever, but there could be like some kind of collaboration or something like that. So I think lots of exciting opportunities.
On the topic of collaboration, ladies, we always talk, James and I, with our owner founders about if you had to pick one celebrity or brand to represent your business, who would it be and why? Have you thought about who that person may be, that one individual that really stands for everything that you want to stand to as a business?
I think it's quite difficult. Somebody asked this a few weeks ago as well, and I was thinking about Ryan Reynolds back then, because he has Aviation Gin, which I think is a very lovely gin. And so I was thinking on Blake Lively as the perfect celebrity collab, because then we could collaborate with the husband. Blake Lively is woman, we are woman, girl empowerment. She can be the tonic to the gin of her husband. And I think they're as a kind of brand, they're very fun, lighthearted, and kind of our target audience. So I think it would be most of all a very fun collaboration.
Yeah, very good.
Let's be honest, the both of them, they can't really suffer from a poor sense of humour, can they?
Exactly.
And he's so not easy on the eye.
Also.
So from a people around you, who have you found who's been particularly inspirational to you in that kind of, if you've started the business and as you've grown through it, who's kind of almost been your kind of inspiration?
I think from the start, Ewan Venters, he used to be CEO of Fortnum & Mason and is now heading up House of Words. He's been a mentor for us since we basically started, has helped us with, on the one hand side, the most amazing networking, introductions. And I think, lots of it comes down to a couple of people that really helped us from the start. And then I think Charlene Heineken, who obviously is a huge inspiration. Charlene and Michelle Heineken, they invested in our business about a year ago. And I think if somebody would have asked us 5 years ago who would be the most ideal family to get behind the product, it would be the family Heineken. They're super much about female empowerment. They obviously have the same Dutch heritage. It's still family owned. So I think that's amazing. And then a third person is Mervyn Davis. He is our chair. He's been very much a mentor, helped grow Double Dutch, but also on a personal level. So I think, lots of great people around us that really helped us grow.
And I think just that kind of day to day, there are so many people that are inspirational. I think our parents have been super inspirational to us, but also we have lots of friends that started their own business, or just friends that are just kind of starting to juggle babies with building their career, which is really difficult, and they're doing that really well. So I think there's kind of inspiration in it every day. There's small inspirations.
There's going to be a lot of people watching this episode in particular, young ladies looking to start their own business that will take huge inspiration from yourselves. What would you say to those young ladies that are not sure whether to start a business or not start a business? And actually not just young ladies, but ladies of all walks of life, from any background. What would you say to those ladies that are looking to start a business but have always had those self-doubts and aren't quite sure? How can we give them that little bit of motivation to get them started?
I think it sounds cliche, but you just need to start and see what the feedback is in the market, in keeping your ID secret for yourself or trying to perfectionalize it for 2 years in your garage. We didn't know that Double Dutch, that people would be looking for flavored mixers. We created a product of which we knew that the labels were completely disgusting, and we knew that our product was still open for improvement. And I think we went out to the market, people had feedback, but still loved the concept, and we iterated our product to a product that our customers really liked. And I think it's important to just go out there, see whether there's interest, if people want to pay for it. I think that's very important. Just asking opinions from friends and family, that's an easier thing. I think you need to go out in the market and see if people actually want to buy or order it. But there's really nothing to lose, especially if you're young. You don't
To do it on the side.
if you do it on the side.
I think also, I think we need to step away from kind of, for example, that you ask, what would you say to female founders? I think we just need to look at it as founders in general and kind of step away from that kind of stigma. But that said, I do think that there are now so many initiatives for female founders, and I think it's kind of on us to make the most of it and kind of use those initiatives. And there are so many female-founded networking events. There are now VC funds that are only investing in female-founded businesses. There are some grants for female-founded business, and I think we just all need to make use of it. And I think in some way, maybe we do have an advantage also because we are in the minority at the moment, and it makes us more standing out and it makes us more memorable for our customers. So I think we just all have to look at it from a positive point of view.
I think so.
Yeah,
And there's definitely something to be said around that female entrepreneur and just that sheer appetite for being very driven. I think, and not in a bad way. Some people look at it in terms of, they're really kind of ballsy and they kind of go out and be really aggressive. I don't think that's the case at all. It's just there's this inherent nature of being able to succeed and want to succeed. And I think that's, in essence, for any founder, the self-belief and to be able to get over that initial hurdle of, have confidence in what you believe in, regardless of gender, regardless of race, regardless of whatever. If it's something you truly believe in and you have spent the time to get something to market. We were talking to a gentleman in our previous episode, Pan and Ice, Henry, who they literally were on holiday for 2 weeks. And by the end of the first week, they'd already phoned a mate back in England to do a logo. And by the end of the 2 weeks, they'd had this idea for this product to come to market in the UK. They had the commitment and the passion to do it. How do you keep that passion and fire going as an owner-founder? Because, at times it can be quite difficult to kind of keep that kind of passion kind of burning, can't it?
I think it's such a fun industry. So if you can't be passionate about drinking gin and tonics for your work, then there's something completely wrong. And I think, again, with the two of us, I think it's so fun that you can celebrate successes with the two of you. And I think having a product specifically, it's so fun to see. We go on holidays to, for example, Mykonos, and then you randomly see Double Dutch on a terrace where you would never expect it. Yeah. Or you walk around London and everybody's drinking outside, and you see all these bottles of Double Dutch standing on the restaurants and terraces that we didn't know were customers of Double Dutch. So I think that is just super fun and super satisfying that you know that every bottle that you produce on the line is being consumed by somebody in like a nice, sociable atmosphere. I really think it's bringing joy to the world. So I think that's super, super fun. And I think it's also great that you can quantify it and you can celebrate your 1 million bottle, your 10 million bottle, your 100 million bottle. And I think, having a product just, for me, makes that even more tangible and really, I think it's super fun and great. And it's your baby. It's a whole life the past 6 years. So
it is all consuming, isn't it? It really is. Yeah. It doesn't disappear. It's every morning, every night, every day. It's kind of constant.
Yeah.
Does that? Oh, that's one of my bottles over there on that pub table. Has that disappeared yet?
No.
Yeah.
No.
So what?
Does it that you?
What? What's the question?
Defining moment of today.
Yeah.
What's the question?
It was has that buzz about just seeing that bottle of Double Dutch on a table somewhere as you walk past. Do you still go, oh look, nudge, nudge? That's one of ours. Look. Is that still there? Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Because if that disappeared, at that point in time, that's pretty much it, is it?
Exactly.
The question around mentoring, you talked about having mentors and people in your corner that have been a massive help and inspiration to you. Have you both started mentoring those earlier on in their journey? Obviously, Double Dutch is now quite the success story, but have you had chance to start mentoring new businesses coming up through the ranks?
Yeah, definitely. I think we do quite a lot of talks and one-to-one mentoring. And we also just, for example, started a female bartender scholarship scheme where we're kind of helping female bartenders that are wanting to go into the hospitality industry with, for example, funding their courses, but we're doing also group sessions. We're doing some one-to-one mentoring sessions, but also not just with us, but with other people in the industry. And yeah, I definitely think we got so much help from other people that we definitely want to give it back.
And in terms of
the future of the journey for you ladies, sorry, James, where do you hope to take it in the next 3-5 years? Where can we expect to see Double Dutch?
Hopefully everywhere. I think for us, it's really building Double Dutch as a household name, being known for innovative tonic waters and mixers into our, say, 20 key markets internationally. And yeah, really building the brand for like a super long-term existence.
Yeah, nice.
Fantastic. I think the product's lovely. I think, it sits there. It gives you something different when you're kind of sitting at the end of the day and you pluck a bottle of gin out the cupboard and it's like, what goes with this? And you've got a wide array of products. The bit which I think has come out today is that if there's any learning we've got from today's session is drink more gin and tonic. I think as the primary answer, regardless. Is there any last little bit of nugget or wisdom that you'd want to leave an owner-founder from today? Is there one thing you'd pull out from your journey so far that you'd just impart to the world?
Find yourself a co-founder. I think that really makes life better. We have friends that started their businesses by themselves, and I think that is really harder. You don't have anything to rely back on. It's all on one pair of shoulders.
And I think lots of people are scared for raising money, especially early days. I think find yourself good investors that can help you with distribution, that can be your mentor. I think a personal connection with any investor is super important. But we've always believed I'd much rather have a slightly less percentage of a really big company than 100% of a small company. And I think that is kind of still an insecurity about that, or kind of a stigma around it. And I think, it doesn't really matter as long as you can keep majority shareholding. But if you have the right investors, it's just a lot easier and they can help you and grow the company.
And the investors sometimes come with far more than money, don't they? Sometimes the
Exactly.
advice and the guidance is worth 10 times the value of their actual investment.
Definitely.
Fab.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I can safely say thank you so much for anyone listening to this. As I said, gin and tonic's the way forward. I do have one last question for you, though, because I love gin, but is there another spirit? What do you think is going to be the next gin kind of craze that's kind of come through? Are you seeing a spirit in particular take over?
I think everyone's talking about rum because it's also similar like gin. It's relatively easy to make. There's some lots of great variations that you can have in rum with white rums, dark rums, spicy, different distilling methods. So I think rum could be the next gin, definitely.
Yeah, or tequila. I think in the US, tequila is really the gin. And I was actually at a dinner yesterday with 5 people, and 3 of them were drinking tequila all evening, just sipping. So I don't know. I think gin is never gonna go away. Consumers are educated about gins. They've been drinking it for 50 years. I really don't think that you can take that knowledge away. But I think the consumer in general, and especially the gin drinker, has become more experimental, and they are now more open than they were 15 years ago to move to a rum and tonic or a tequila and tonic once in a while. So I think just more choice and more exploration with consumers.
Fantastic. Well, thank you from myself and Nathan for today. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. And for anyone that's listening to the podcast or watching us on YouTube, etc., then do visit doubledutchdrinks.com and pick up yourself a bit of a mixer set, and so you can try something quite unique and quite different in the market. So thank you again. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Ladies. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.